this video we are going to focus on the stage 2 of the pipeline. So in this stage our goal is to build a Docker image from the application and publish it to the GitLab container registry. If you remember from the previous videos, we already made this manually by using the Docker playground. But how can we achieve this in a pipeline? Well, let's firstly add a new stage to our pipeline file. We can maybe remove that one. So now here we have one stage currently, so let's go ahead and add a new one. Containerize. Now we are going to use a different image, and I'm going to check it from my notes. So now the important thing to understand is that even though the pipeline runner is using Docker, it doesn't have Docker is not available as a command in the pipeline runner unless we specify it here as the image. So we are using Docker inside Docker, so to call, using a Docker container that has a Docker, I guess. And also another thing that we need to now make is add this kind of a service in order to have the Docker accessible inside the scripts. This is a detail that we are not going to focus on. Just the important thing to know is that we need these two configuration options in order to have Docker as a command available in the script section of the pipeline. So now we will access the container or build the image and then push it to the container registry. Now, as we remember, the manual way to do this is to first authenticate into the server, then build the image and finally push the image. Now we want to make this in a pipeline, and I don't want to use my own credentials on the pipeline console, even though it would be possible. But this can we can achieve the not using the personal credentials by using some predefined variables. So GitLab pipelines have a certain set of predefined variables that we can use inside our pipeline, and now we are interested in variables that relate to the container registry. So here we have this variable CI registry user that is a username to push containers to the project's container registry. We also have the password of the user as a variable. So we are going to use these two. Also we are going to use the address of the container registry. So these are very useful variables. We can now authenticate with those instead of our personal credentials. So let's add a section or script that will handle the authentication. So let's see here. So now we are using the CI registry user in order to or as the username and as the password we are use the CI registry password. Notice the syntax it has this dollar sign in front of the variable. And finally we specify the registry where we are authenticating into. So this is pretty much the registry of this GitLab project or repository. Next we are going to make this build command, and well, I think we could just actually paste them from here or copy them from here. Let's see. Finally the command to push the image. So now once we are authenticated into the registry, we can use the build and push command similarly as we would in the Docker playground. So this should now work in the way that first the stage that we already, or let me actually commit this file first and then go through the process file the pipeline runs. So by checking git status we can see that we modified the CI file. We can then add it to the commit and make the commit. Finally, let's push the change. So now, as we can see, there is now two stages in the pipeline. First, the stage that we already made, which is the build and test stage. And then we have this new containerized stage. Now, an important thing to know is that if this build and test stage were to fail, so if the tests won't pass, then the pipeline exists and it doesn't execute this containerized section. So this is useful because we don't want to containerize and publish a application that is broken. So therefore this is a very useful feature and even necessary feature if we want to rely solely on this pipeline in order to publish software automatically. So let's now go ahead and see how the containerize stage works. So it is using a Docker runner that will have Docker inside it. So it's Docker inside Docker. There is more information on the GitLab docs about the matter if you are interested. And actually, well, I could briefly show you about the GitLab runner documentation while we are waiting for the pipeline. Yes, here is some information on this section of the documentation. You can use GitLab CI/CD with Docker to create Docker images. So this is now what we are actually doing. So here is some different ways on how to do it. There certainly is many ways to many ways to make this happen, and also it is important to know that the Docker runner isn't or this is now the GitLab is using this Docker plus machine executor, but there are also other type of executors like shell executors, for example, that were actually mentioned in this documentation. So I think the default is the Docker plus machine executor because we haven't defined it differently, and it is very useful because we can assign certain base images like the node image or the Docker image inside the or to the runner. So here we can see some logging that probably relates to the setting up to the Docker inside Docker configuration. Now here we can see that our script section starts running on the line 108. So it will authenticate, and the login seems to have succeeded, and after that it has started to build the image. Let's see if there is anything weird in it. No, it has successfully built it and tagged it. And finally it has pushed the image to the container registry of this project, and it also seems to have succeeded. So our pipeline has succeeded, and we can go ahead and verify that there is a new image, and yes, published 2 minutes ago. So here is the newest version of our application now that has been published by our pipeline. So now we can start to see why this kind of a CI/CD pipeline is very efficient. So now if we were to make a change to the application, the pipeline would automatically publish the newest version of the application to the registry if the tests pass. So it is of course important that we have a set of tests that are able to verify that the application is working correctly, at least to a certain degree. But the final stage of the pipeline will be to publish the application into the production environment. And we will focus on that in the next video.